Hey guys, how's it going? I was going through my comments one day. I was responding to a comment this morning, actually this evening, and another one right below it caught my eye. It was a month ago, so I apologize to Chris Chen for not seeing this until now. But he asked a good question. He asked, can you do a similar video about the future of native app development, please? Will web or React take over native app developer job market? So, I can't say for sure whether or not React Native is going to take over the native app development market. I don't have a crystal ball on that, but I can relay to you my own experiences. So that's probably the best thing I can go off of. So it's June 12th, almost June 13th, 2017. I had spent about the last 6 weeks, pretty much the entire month of May, getting my consulting business back up again, drumming up client work for my consulting work, and getting my name back out there in the consulting game, or just the game as I call it. I'm going to run classes and do the consulting during the day and just sort of keep a couple plates spinning. So the point of all this is that the last 6-7 weeks or so have been sort of a reintroduction of myself into the consulting game. And it's been not eye-opening, but it's actually been more or less what I expected. So let me just give you a rundown. I picked up 3 clients. 2 are iOS and 1 is web. I had another offer that was I had to rescind. I had to turn down, I should say, which was a React to web application, just React Redux. I had another one that I had to turn down because they changed the rate. So this certain things don't ever change. Nonsense like this is just comes with the territory. But that was a React Redux web application. And then another one, I got the offer. We got as far as signing contracts, and then they lost the funding. So that was really annoying because I went to the interview and all that stuff, and the code challenge and all that crap, and it's annoying. It's like, imagine now shopping for a house, and I put down a bid for a house, so like $500,000, $700,000, and then I put down the bid, and then they accept my bid, and then I apply for a mortgage. It's like, oh, I got turned down for a mortgage. I'm sorry, can't buy the house. That's what happened. That's considered okay business practice in our industry, which is bullshit, but it happens. So anyway, and my time is lost. Like, I did the coding interview and 3 rounds of interviews and all that crap and whatever. They were deeply apologetic, but I don't care. My time is okay, whatever. So the point is, that was a React Native project. What is the common theme here? React. Furthermore, React Redux. Nobody wanted Apollo or Relay. One of them is actually pretty keen on GraphQL. One of the clients I'm working on right now, and so we might eventually integrate a GraphQL based architecture, which would mean we probably use Relay on the React side, but that's all tentative. It's all TBD. In all likelihood, we're going to stick with React Redux, just because the team is already comfortable and familiar, and we're all good at it. Now, if you pay attention to what I said, it was 2 iOS apps and 1 native regular web application, but they're all React Redux and React Native for the iOS. In other words, I'm not doing any Swift. No Xcode, no Swift, no pure native applications. That's very instructive because, keep in mind, I am a native iOS developer. In fact, I would still say that's my best skill. I've been doing that for 7 years, right? Starting out with Objective-C. I go back to the days of memory management in Objective-C. I was doing iOS before storyboards existed. As far as iOS goes, I'm an old man. As far as iOS goes, I've been doing this shit way too long. So the point I'm trying to make is, my clients, knowing that's the case, still want to go with React Native, and I agree with that decision, and I support that decision. I think it's the right move. So, Chris, to answer your question, succinctly, yeah, React Native is here to stay. This is not like a flash in the pan. This is not like a phone gap, or like I mean, I guess Ionic kind of has some staying power, but React Native is still far and away dominating Ionic as far as the cross-platform stuff goes. I don't even know the other ones anymore. I guess like Cordova, I think, is another one, or I don't know. It doesn't really matter. React Native is taking over this industry now. So yeah, there's something to be said for that. For my experiences in the last 6-7 weeks or so. Now, bear in mind, I netted 3 clients. I had 3 other offers that fell through for various reasons. But that's probably after talking to about 30 some odd leads. Those numbers are about right. Some of them did want native iOS Swift, but that's mostly because they didn't know what React Native even was. So these are like non-technical founders, things like that. People who don't understand the tech world. So that's a little bit different. That's excusable. But the teams I'm working with now are all tech-led teams, right? So it's actually quite nice working with actual, like, not being the only tech guy in the team anymore. So it's fun. It's more enjoyable because I get to sort of geek out a little bit more and just like talk a lot of tech with guys who A, understand, and B, appreciate, like enjoy this. So that's actually pretty fun. But the thing is that so when I'm talking about professionals, people in one team in Austin, Texas, another one in the Bay Area, San Francisco, who really know what they're doing, and their professional opinion is to use React Native for their applications. So that should be sort of a pretty strong indicator, a harbinger of what's to come in the next 3, 5, 7 years of mobile app development. It's another reason why I kept trying to say in my demos, you gotta see where things are going rather than where things are right now. This is probably the most important skill I personally possess, is having a good nose for where things are going, not where things currently are. So if you're starting out in web development, or development period, programming, if you're starting out in programming, in all likelihood you're playing catch up. Where are things now, and how do I get there as soon as possible? But what you should be thinking is, where are things going, and then how do I get to that destination rather than where we are now, right? But most people don't think that way because they fail to recognize just how fast things move. So just last week, a major publisher reached out to me. They found me on YouTube, and they were like, we're looking for people to help us generate content for our online education platform. I'll tell you who it is once the deals are signed and all that stuff. And they were like, a big problem we've been having is that whenever we publish like a tutorial for, like a React or a certain framework, it's out of date in like a few months, and like our content is not good for after a few months, and we need to find a way to create more what they call evergreen content that's good for at least a year, right? So that's a big problem, and this is a major publishing company that does a lot of programming books. If you've been studying programming for a while, you've probably read some of their books. So it's a very keen problem that people have been dealing with. And if you're a beginner developer, if you're just starting out, this whole notion to you is just completely out of the ordinary. If you're coming from college or grad school where you got these textbooks that they've been using for like a couple of years, I know they make new editions, but the books are basically the same, right? Year after year after year. A chemistry book is a chemistry book. It's not going to change more than a little bit every 5-10 years. So if you're coming from that kind of environment to where like, I'm to web development where you study a tutorial that was written 6 months ago and it's already out of date. That's happened to me many times, by the way. That whole notion is so foreign that it takes it takes a lot of adjustment, right? So if you're just getting into it, web development, you're not thinking this way. So you end up signing up for a boot camp or a web school. They're teaching you Ruby on Rails, jQuery, HTML, CSS, Bootstrap. These are all things you need to know, but this is like the tip of the iceberg. Like that's just your entry into the game. That allows you to play this game. That's it, right? And then there's a whole level beyond that. That's not what they're teaching at a lot of these, boot camps and whatnot. And mostly because frankly, it's too hard. It's hard to find instructors who can do this at a good pay. I mean, I've told this a couple times. Boot camps have reached out to me in New York. They wanted me to teach mostly their iOS course, and going rate for like a full-time boot camp for a 12-week course for an instructor might be around 20-25K. That just won't cut it for me for full-time. You can do much better in the contract consulting market in New York and definitely San Francisco. So that's pretty much happening right now in web. Is that math right? So it's under 2K a week, right? So 12 weeks, 20K, that's under 2K a week, correct. Right, so the question is, can you clear better than 2K a week consulting? And that's an emphatic yes. So, if you're going to find top-level talent who can do React Native with Redux or GraphQL and Relay at that, well, you just won't. You won't find it at that rate. You just won't. You're going to find someone who's not good, junior. So what happens is the curriculum has to stay at a level where these schools can afford the instructors. And that's why you see sort of these curriculums that are still kind of, circa 2012, 2014, Ruby on Rails, jQuery, Bootstrap, whatever. It's just market dynamics, Econ 101. So I don't want to get too far off Chris's question. So yeah, so React Native is definitely a good place to be if you're going into web programming in general. Will it take over iOS natives like Swift and Xcode? No, it won't. The question is, what are the dynamics for these two skill sets, moving forward? Right, so it's 2017 today. Let's try and extrapolate 2 years ahead, 2019. At this point, React, Redux, React Native, GraphQL, Redux, Relay, Apollo, all these things by then will be mature technologies. They won't be new and cutting edge anymore. They'll be the way things are done, right? So in 2 years, what is it going to look like as far as it relates to React Native versus Swift, regular Swift, pure iOS? The way I see it is, and this is my own conjecture, the way I see it is that all that Swift code that's written started a couple of years ago, right? So Airbnb's iPhone app, Uber, if Uber's still around, Snapchat, whatever. These are all written in Swift and maybe even Objective-C. Those companies will need senior level talent, the highest grade talent. You're not going to start a new code base in Swift today or in 2018 or 2019. It's just not the right move, and sort of the word is starting to trickle down as far as that goes. Like that's becoming more and more common knowledge based on the conversations I've had in the last 6, 7, 8 weeks, right? Even like the non-technical people, like the marketing people and whatnot, they kind of now know like what React Native is and the difference between that and Xcode and Swift and when to use what. So that means if you want to, it depends on where you kind of see yourself fitting in this economy, right? So if you're a junior developer, you just graduated boot camp, you have less than 1 year in your pocket, and you want to go native, mobile applications. Question is, if you want to do Swift, can you get to a like that high level, that basically that senior level? Can you get to like my level in a short period of time, right? Like Swift for me is just nothing. I've been doing it for so long now that the whole Xcode, all the nuances where things break and how to set up the build path and the set the headers and all this crap. Xcode sucks. Xcode really sucks. Just want to be clear. It does not play nice with developers. It has its rules, and there's no exception. Like, you play by Xcode's rules. So I want to be clear about this. You work for Xcode. If you're an iOS developer, Xcode is your boss. So there are so many little things you got to remember, and like how to link frameworks, and like how to connect all these bindings and everything, and it just sucks. And then whenever they do an Xcode update, Xcode 8 to Xcode 9, they're still on 8 right now, but whenever Xcode 9 comes out, just be ready for all your shit to break. Just be ready for that. Like, emotionally prepare yourself. You're going to have a bad day. You might cry a little. It's going to suck. And all your apps are going to break again. Like, this is Xcode development. All right, so I don't want this to become a rant on Xcode. The point is, these are the way you kind of get good at this. It's just experience. There's no other way. It's just thousands of hours of fighting Xcode, and that's it. And that's really what it is, by the way. You're fighting Xcode. A good thing, actually, if you have a Mac and you go on the App Store, just go on the Mac App Store and then type in Xcode. Xcode. Click on Xcode. Don't believe any of these ratings. Those are all boosted by Apple. This right here is a very typical Xcode review. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but 1 star, and it's just basically a huge rant on like, why does Apple release these shitty products for their developers? This is the current release, 8.3.3, so just go read all the versions and just look at all the 1 stars. One just gets worse and worse. Come on, Apple. You get a couple of these 5 stars. I wonder where those are coming from. But just, yeah, that's Xcode. So basically what Xcode does is, as you're developing the whole time, it just gives you the middle finger the whole time. And you just kind of have to like fight through it. When I was doing Xcode exclusively, so programming 6, 7, 8 hours a day on Xcode professionally, at least once a day I had to shut down my entire computer and just let it cool off. Xcode is also a huge memory hog. Probably on its own at least 2 gigs of RAM, at least, just to maintain operation. Like, doesn't matter how big your app is, and then obviously the bigger your app, the more RAM. So that's Xcode. Now some of that does spill over into React Native, some of it, but not a lot. Facebook did a great job of running everything through their React development server, where they just compile the JavaScript and then just reload. So yeah, you still get some of that headache, but not as much as you otherwise would. So what was I going off on? So the main idea behind sort of this mini rant is that if you're going to be a Swift developer in 2019, right, that's what you should be thinking, because if you're starting out now, you won't be any good until 2019 anyway. If you're like a hard worker, right, if you actually work hard at this, you'll start getting good. You'll stop being shitty around 2019. So if you're looking at 2019, the question is, where is this the ecosystem, how's it gonna look as it relates to React Native versus Xcode? So a Swift. So the way it's gonna look, as far as I can predict, is that it's gonna be, you have these senior level Swift developers, guys who've been doing it as long as I have. So 2 years from now, we're looking at almost a decade, who just know Xcode backwards and forwards. And just, we know all the nuances. We've put up with this shit for a long time. We know when it's going to be a bitch, and we know how to deal with it, and we know how to make things work. We can sort of contort Xcode to do what you want it to do, and make a fucking iPhone app, and a good one. Create nice animations and, you know, conserve the memory, things like that. That takes years of experience and just constant banging your head against the wall and just making that goddamn thing do what you tell it to do. Right? Forgive my French. So if you're starting out with that now, you got to put in that work now. Right? Get yourself to a point where you understand all that shit in 2 years. I'm not saying you can't do it. I'm not going to tell anybody they can't do anything. I'm telling you, this is what you're signing up for. Okay, this is what you're signing up for. Now, if you can compete at that level in 2 years, to the point where a company like Airbnb would hire you over me based on my Xcode experience, then you're just a way better developer than I am, and I tip my hat to you, right? And I'm not discouraging. Like, I probably won't do much Xcode in the next 12 to 24 months anyway, because all my work is coming in React Native. Yeah, I don't deal with the Ubers and the Airbnbs. That's not my client. Right? My client is the company that raised $500,000 that wants to become Uber in 4 years, in 3 years. They want to become Airbnb in 3, 4, 5 years. Right? I don't want to work for those companies because they're just going to hire full time, and I also don't want to work on their shitty Xcode code base. So I'm not saying it's shitty, but I'm saying Xcode is shitty. So you get the idea. So, but you know, they get a lot of money to throw around. I'm sure Airbnb is paying their senior level Swift developers a lot of money, probably like at least $250 on the median. So, you know, it wouldn't surprise me at all if the better Xcode iOS guys are getting $350K in San Francisco at Airbnb and Uber and Facebook and whatever, at least. So, the question is, can you get to that level in 2 years? Not likely. And I'm just being honest. Some people can, but those are the outliers. Are you one of them, right? So then, based on that, figure out kind of what your odds are of being in whichever category, and then pick wisely. I'm in a constant state, not constant. I'm in a very regular state of reinventing myself. We're almost halfway through 2017, and 2 years ago, I didn't even really know what React was, right? I didn't even know. I mean, I kind of knew, but I was like, we'll see where this thing ends up, but I'm not too keen on it right now. Now that's all I do. You know, now I'm one of those fanboys, so 2 years later, we'll see. All right, so anyway, so Chris, to answer your question, if you are starting out, you know, if you're relatively new to programming, so let's say less than 1 year, and you want to go mobile development, there's still plenty of money to be made there. In fact, I've got, like I said, I've got 2 consulting assignments that are mobile and 1 web, but it's all React Redux, React Native for the mobile. So that should tell you something, because again, it's not because I can only do React. That's not my only skill set. This is coming from a guy who can also do Swift probably better than React, because I've been doing Swift for 7 years. Not Swift, native iOS. Okay, so I've been doing native iOS for 7 years. So, and I've been doing React Redux for like 1.5 years, something like that, like a year, somewhere between a year and a year, so give or take. So that should tell you something, right? So it certainly tells me something. So keep that in mind. And yeah, that's basically it. So if you have any other questions, feel free to drop a comment. And sorry it took me a month to get back to you, but I didn't see it till today anyhow. So hope you enjoyed the video, and stay tuned for the next one.